We doing something?
Okay. The following is the agenda for the regular council meeting of the Borough of Compton Lakes. Mayor and council, a municipal corporation in the county of Passaic. The meeting will begin at 7:30 p.m. on September 28, 2022, in the municipal building, 25 Lenox Avenue, Compton Lakes, New Jersey, consistent with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. The meeting will be open for public comments and shall be in accordance with terms and conditions of the Borough Municipal Code and bylaws.
Okay, please stand for a flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting, setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting, through notice posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, mailed to who have requested and paid for same, and published in the Suburban Trends. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sarah.
Here.
Council President Polidori.
Here.
Councilman Day.
Here.
Councilman Cruz is excused.
Yes.
Councilman DeLine.
Here.
Councilwoman Kent.
Here.
Councilman Bennett.
Here.
With us this evening is our Borough Attorney Mark Semeraro and our Borough Administrator Paul Cosgrove.
Okay, thank you. I have no presentations and updates today, so we'll go right to open the meeting for public comments. Can I have a motion? Second. Councilman Devine, Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
How are you?
Okay, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Do I just,
Name and address.
oh,
That's all
I'm
you
sorry,
need.
Stephanie Guy, 62 Hunter Place.
Napa.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. It is not my intent to complain, but rather voice a concern and make a request, which I think some of you may know this. I'm referring to the stockade fence between the residents of Hunter Place and the shopping center. I'm not going to speculate to the age of the fence, but I think it's fair to say it's seen better days. Since we've lived here, the fence has been deteriorating over the last several months. It has gotten worse. The construction crew continues to rest equipment on the fence as well as some of the machines, and in many places planks are missing, broken, and right behind our house it's bowing in. When we originally voiced our concern prior to Lytle going in about the noise and traffic, it was advised we should have been aware of the traffic. We bought our homes, and that is true. What we didn't anticipate is having a business with the front facing our backyards. And with the new storage facility, people will be using the back lot as the primary entrance to get into their units and entering at all hours, opening doors, shining headlights, etc. So Friday when we got home, we noticed that just about all the trees were cut down in the back. And I even brought a picture. So we've lost complete use and enjoyment of our home this summer, especially with the construction that starts at 6:30 in the morning and goes so loud that we can't leave our windows or doors open. And now with gaping hole, we have to keep all of our blinds shut. So, you know, my husband went out and asked them what they were doing, and they said they were cutting down all the dead trees. But I have pictures 2 weeks ago when they were thriving. There was one dead limb that fell on the fence, but that was it. So, you know, this is really more of just a plea for, and I know it's out of some people's control, but just some sort of barrier between the storage facility and our home.
And I know we have spoken.
We have, and I, like I said, I brought a picture, and it's...
No, that's okay. And after we spoke, I did reach out to some people.
Yes, you did.
And what I'm understanding now is I think some arborvitae will be going up when they're all done with the project. I'm having my building department verify that from the plans to make sure that it's happening. I'm also having them verify that they're going to put a new fence up. If they are not going to put up a new fence, I'm going to request, I cannot make them, but I'm going to request, let's put a new fence up too. The fence is old and falling apart. I did reach out to our shade tree commission, who happens to be here today, and he told me that one of the trees was deemed to come down, and I'll ask just the shade tree real quick, it was a sick tree or?
There's an ash tree that needs to come down, emerald ash borer. That's what I was told by Mr. Polster.
Right.
And he was telling me that the management company plans on planting green giant arborvitaes and other buffer trees
Oh, great, thank
between
you.
the property.
I agree with the buffer. We'd like to see a buffer there. That's only fair. The construction part of that, unfortunately, they have to
It
work.
is what it is.
And that'll be done soon. Hopefully, they're almost done with the project. And they should be done with that. So I will stay on top of them to make sure it'll probably be done towards the end of the project.
Of course.
The arborvitae, I'm pretty certain is going up. I'd like to see a fence also, though, if possible.
Do you know when the construction will be, or at least there will be inside and the lights aren't coming in?
I would say in the next month, they'll be in on the
Oh, okay,
inside.
great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Can I raise
Sure.
something? So
You can stay up there or sit, whatever you want.
one of the things that we might want to take a look at is have our building official take a look at the conditions of approval for the site plan.
He is, that's what he's doing. He's
So
pulling the whole
that-
plan.
That could address the fence issue. as
Correct.
well.
So I wasn't certain of the fence, so I called Sal a couple days ago. He's gonna pull the plan and see what was actually in the plan, and I just don't remember from.
Yeah, not even just the latest one, but when the center was redeveloped, what was required for fencing in the original site plan.
Okay, well, yeah, we're gonna do that. Okay, no problems. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Hi, my name is Anisha Sosa. I'm at 31 Howard Street. I was just invited today by the Shade Tree Commission because they came by my house. I have a terrible infestation of spotted lanternflies on my trees. And I'm just curious to know if there's any town, city, or state or county funding in helping take the trees down or getting rid of the bugs. Is there anything that any can tell me about?
So
this, or-
we're not aware of any, and I can say our administrator did reach out to our congresswoman to see if she was aware of anything federally, and unfortunately there was not. What she recommended is what we're doing already. Report any flies we see on the website, and that's as far as they're going right now with that. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is.
Okay, I was told that I would have to take the trees down. The issue I have with that, because it's really bad.
That's bad.
Yeah, it's really bad. The problem I have with that is that where I live is right on a bend, and I have absolutely no privacy in my yard, and those trees provide the only source of privacy in my yard. On top of that, I had Lieutenant Kopacki come by, and because I've had people park on the bend, which I don't understand how anybody, driving around could just park right there on a bend. And it's a very uncomfortable feeling when I have no privacy in my yard and somebody's parked right there, coming in at night. It's a little dangerous. I come in with my 2 kids and I don't feel safe.
So can I first ask you, who's telling you have to take the tree down?
It was suggested.
Is it
that-
because it's a bad tree, or again, I'm gonna go to shade tree? I usually don't do this. You're getting very lucky today. You get 2 shots at this.
I'll speak about it when I.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
because it's really bad.
All right, so there's 2 different issues here. If the
Yeah.
tree itself is bad, separate from the lanternfly issue,
Okay.
then
No, it's not.
if it's bad because of the lanternflies, this is the first I'm hearing of that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there's not much we can do with a private tree on private property.
Okay.
There was some information of ways to get rid of the eggs off lanternflies that residents can do. You can Google that online, and it involves scraping and putting it in bags and alcohol. I don't know how well that will work. But right now, the state and the federal government has no plans for it right now, unfortunately.
Okay, okay. Okay, so, and
Okay.
then, in regards to that corner and that bend.
So again, I know where Howard Street is, and they're parking on a corner. Is it a parkable area? Is it?
I mean, they have put up a sign that says no parking 5 feet from the driveway, but it's still a very weird place to park when first of all, it's a safety issue, and even safety coming in and out of the driveway, as people are, turning around this bend, I have to stick myself all the way out to see, and my kids drive, and I don't want them.
So the lieutenant you spoke to, he's in charge of our parking, and what was his suggestion? I'd have to talk to him because I hadn't talked to him.
Yeah, he said that there would have to be an ordinance, some kind of somebody coming out, I guess he tried handling it by putting up that sign. He said it's gonna have to, I don't know, when we come here or do a big
Bill, you're
thing.
a police, right? Wait, Bill? You're police? your inputs, right? Maybe you and Paula could reach out to Lieutenant Kapaki and just see what he knows about that, and then we'll see what we can do. I mean, I can't promise anything, it's the first I'm hearing of it, but let me see.
Okay, all right.
Just give your address at the end of the day. What's your address again? I'm sorry.
31 Howard?
31 Howard. Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Good evening, Al Evangelista, Ringwood Court, Pompton Lakes. On the subject of the Pompton Town Plaza, and Councilman DeLine was right on the money with this comment. I sat through many a planning board meeting with that, obviously with my duties with the fire department. And the specific requirements were made of that property at the time. One being that fence behind the store, which was supposed to be, if I remember, 10 or 12 feet high, to give those residents privacy from that building. And what I find all too often, and not just this project, but a lot of projects in this town, and probably other towns as well, is that when they sell to another property owner and they take over, then they make changes that are not in the original grant.
Are you talking,
Okay.
just so I'm a little confused, you're talking about the original?
I'm talking about the original
When it was
fence
the AP
behind
or
Pompton
since it was
Town
taken over
Plaza. So
recently?
now we got another owner, because the first developer sold it to another
Okay, all
guy.
right, just so I-
Now he comes in and decides, I'm gonna make this fence 6 feet. No. That building was predicated on that fence being 10 or 12 feet, whatever's in there, they're gonna find it. Because I remember that was a big object of discussion. The other discussion was lights. Okay? Those lights were designed so that the splash from the light did not shine into these people's yards or homes. They just changed all the lights over there. My question is, do they have to come before the board, the zoning board, to get a change?
I
Because
don't-
that's a change of design that was approved in the original.
Technically, yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Technically, like if you have, you have a site plan approval.
Right.
We're going back to the AP.
Original
Your
site,
plan-
original.
But you're talking about
Yes.
30 years ago.
It doesn't
I
matter.
don't care
I'm
if
just
it's
saying, I'm just
50
saying,
years
it's not,
ago.
we're talking.
But yes,
Right.
technically, anything that would change the approved site plan would have to go back, and I'm assuming the planning board, if it was just a site plan and there weren't variances associated with it, but
There were variants.
Okay, so maybe it's the Board of Adjustment then. They would technically have to go to Board of Adjustment, get, basically revisions to the site plan approval.
And we're fortunate,
Based on those-
or unfortunate, our attorney at the time, who was not our attorney at the time, was representing some of the people there, and do we remember if there was any stipulations?
But
on
again, this is
on
going
fencing?
to AP.
I don't remember.
Well, my concern is this, if the fence is in disrepair, that owner right now should make temporary repairs to that fence to restore it to what it's supposed to be. You don't say, well, when the project's done in 5 months, then we'll put a new fence
No, I'm
up.
only going by the new plans that were.
I
presented.
understand
I'm not
that,
going
but the
by-
new plans can't erase what the original plans
I'd have to
did
check
to
that.
get the
I don't
approval to
know.
put that building in. Valley National Bank, just to use an example, beautiful facility, supposed to be supposed to be a sign coming out of that lot that says no left-hand turn only, I believe. The sign was knocked down in a snowstorm, never replaced, and now, for years, it's been a free-for-all. So my point is this, when anybody makes a change to a site that they buy second or third or fourth hand, you should go back to the original site plans to see what provisions were put in there that controlled that property at
And
that
that would come
time.
out of the boards, planning board.
Exactly, but somebody's got to do that homework.
Yeah, that, the.
Otherwise, they're just going to take over and say, we'll do what we want, we'll take down that fence and put up a 4-foot fence.
Yeah,
I mean,
and we can bring
you
that up. to the-
understand my point?
We can bring that up to
Okay.
the boards and
Thank you.
have them look in that.
And that goes on a lot in this town, I see it in different projects. Not anybody's fault, it's just the way things go. But my point is, if we don't stay on top of that, that's when it affects the residents and other people.
No, I
and
get you.
It's not fair. Thank
So
you.
then that's why we're gonna pull all the plans, just to take a look.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public, please step up.
Courtney Hennessy, 628 Dawes Highway. I just had a simple question. Is Dawes Highway a county road or is it our town road?
It's a county road.
It's a county road.
No,
Okay,
no.
so who would I
Well,
talk to?
the front part is.
Only
Up to the bridge,
over the
bridge.
Drive, between Hamburg Turnpike and River Edge Drive.
Right.
It's county road, then it actually takes a left down River Edge.
Right, where it turns.
And then Poplar is actually a county road all the way to Riverdale Boulevard. But Dawes Highway, once you get past that initial intersection, becomes a local road.
Okay, so my question is, just because I live there, obviously, And I know it's 25 miles an hour, but people treat it like it's a highway because a lot of people cut from Hammer Turnpike through and vice versa, back and forth. When we paved that road years ago, why don't we have the double yellow in the middle of it? Twice in the past
I
2
can
months,
find out.
I've been passed up on my left side.
Yeah, that's
I almost got hit going into my driveway. So I'm just curious, like, what does it take for us to get that? Because people think it's a free-for-all.
Yeah, I can talk to the police department and find out what's going on there and why it's not a double yellow. I can't answer that.
Yeah, it's been that way for years.
Do you remember if it was a double yellow?
Oh, yeah, 'cause I
So it
lived
was,
there for years.
and then it didn't, it wasn't put back as.
Right, I lived at 130 Dawes Highway years ago, and we had the double yellow, and I lived at 628 Dawes Highway with the double yellow, and then once it was paved, they never put it back.
All right.
Just like how Colfax, they put it back.
Well,
we really
while
need
you're
that
talking to the
back.
police department, let's find out about that one. If it was a double yellow, I agree, it should be a double yellow, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll find out about
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Oh, please step up. That was a small hand raise.
Randy Hitton, 443 Montclair Avenue. Speaking for the Shade Tree Commission, I was today at this nice woman's house. Last year, she had a problem with spotted lanternfly. She took care of it herself. She sprayed, paid to spray, and it's the aspect of the timing of the spraying, whereas if they've laid eggs, you kill all the bugs, but the eggs are still there. Now, the following year, she has a tremendous problem. The problem that she has is the trees itself. It's called the Tree of Heaven, and it's the main attraction for this spotted lanternfly.
That's interesting.
It's someplace where they lay their eggs so that the larvae and the bugs next year are going to feed off of that tree. So that's why my suggestion was to her, she could save some money by not spraying, because the next frost or 2 or 3 are going to kill all the bugs. But now they would have laid their eggs already. So then, after they lay their eggs, now's the time to remove the trees, throw them in the chipper, they're gone someplace else. But it's an expense for her to remove all those trees. And there, she lives right on the corner, right opposite DuPont Square Park. You know, the little park that we have right there?
Yep.
I checked the park today. It doesn't have any spotted lanternflies, but with her infestation, she's the second worst I've seen in town so far. The worst is the shopping center on the side of the gym where Lila's is. Paula had called me about a complaint from 68, I think it was, Hunter Place. So I went there to check it out before I went hunting. Cut into my hunting a little bit, but that's what I do. When I went through the fence, I parked at the seniors, I went through the hole in the fence. Yes, they were cutting all the trees, they were trimming all the overhanging trees over that fence, which they have a legal right to do. And it was Bolzer Landscaping that was doing all the trimming. So when I talked to Papa Bolzer, he had told me that they were going to do planting there. And I asked him if he could talk to the management company about the spotted lanternflies, which are second worst there. And he said he would. Then I talked to Jeffrey on vacation. I didn't know he was on vacation. But Jeffrey said he would talk to the management company. And I talked to you, Mr. Mayor, and you said that you would contact them.
I did.
Thank you for doing that. But it's something we have to nip in the bud. Now, today I went to all the parks in Pompton. I went to, and I found in 5 different parks, I put Gallo Pacifico, they're in there. That's a new park that we just bought all new equipment, and if they get out of control there, it's going to be an unpleasant situation for all the people that go to that park. Hirschfield Park, yes, they're in Hirschfield Park, also behind the playground equipment. As soon as you come into the park to the left, I put orange tape around the 3 trees. Those are also Tree of Heaven. I'm going to keep them in mind for removal, because this is a main attraction for this.
So that's new information. So there are certain trees that they're much more attractive.
That's the #1 tree.
Okay, so we should get rid of those. You're
I
right.
have them in my yard now. I think somebody put them there, but I don't know how they got there. I don't know how they get anywhere. But they're on a maple tree, and I've been finding them mostly on maples. On oaks, I haven't seen any. Sycamores, they say they'll go to, but I haven't seen any. So I found them in Gallo Pacifico, I found them in Hirschfield. They're at the First Aid Squad. They're at Joe Grill Field, and they're at Spring Pond. You know where Spring Pond is?
I don't.
Spring Pond is right off of Ringwood Avenue. That's the pond that
Ice cream.
DMK had
Yes.
dredged out. So I found them there also. Lakeside was clean, Carlo Field was clean, that I could find, Moran Park, DuPont Square Park, but then they're right across the street. Katie Cole Park and Stiles Park, I didn't find any at all. But it's going to be a growing problem. I talked to you about this at the last council meeting. And, the other thing that the love of my life went through Oakland, and on their electric signs, they have "Stomp the Fly," just to make people aware.
We could do that.
If you can put that on the sign, and maybe on the fire department sign or a first aid squad sign, make people aware. There was a woman on next door, Compton. I'm not the best on these sites, but she thought it was a pretty butterfly. Well, she's gonna learn, you know? But I mean, it's just an information thing for the general public.
Liz, can we reach out to Karen for the sign, at least for our sign? Sure. And then I'll reach out to the other departments.
Ways of getting rid of them, you can spray with wasp spray, mostly fly swatter. You gotta whack them. The best time to kill them is early in the morning. They're a cold-blooded insect, so they're lethargic in the morning. They don't jump as much. You got grandchildren, pay them 10 cents a piece. They'll be killing them left and right. But you have to attack them in your yard and be diligent about killing them. Otherwise, they lay 30 to 50 eggs per egg carcass or egg. I forget the name for it. It slips me now.
Casings?
Yeah, but so each fly, if you have 1,000, you're going to have 50,000 or 30,000.
I get it. I see them everywhere.
It's going to get out of control. There's a lot of towns now.
I agree 100%.
There's a lot of towns now that they are out of control. You know, I mean, you as mayor, if you could touch base with other mayors and see what
I
they're
haven't asked
doing.
anybody to
Or
go.
as an
I
administrator.
did call Congresswoman Cheryl's office, and, you know, although her senior constituent services representative has not gotten a lot of questions, he did say, like I said, residents can go on the New Jersey Department of Agriculture site, and I believe that's where you can report stump out the fly.
There's also badbugnewjersey.gov. You can go on that site.
It could be there, and the USDA site also has resources
Correct.
with regard to.
But I mean, when you meet with other mayors, just touch
Yeah, I can-
base to see, because they're all going to have the same problem.
And
You know,
I'm
I
actually
mean,
going to a mini convention of mayors in another month. And I'll bring it up. I'll see how they're
Yeah,
doing.
just see what they're doing, you know, and we're gonna have to try to follow suit as best we can. Like, I had a conversation with Councilman DeLine, and like he said, which is correct, they're here and we're gonna have to deal with them. But it's how we deal with them, how proactive we are to eliminate them. And, so it's something we all have to work on.
Randy, will the wasp spray kill the eggs on the trees?
No,
How do you get rid of those if you see them?
you have to scrape them. See, that's the trouble now. When I was at this woman's house, there were spotted lanternflies 15, 20 feet in the air. So, I mean, you're not gonna really get your ladder and look at every branch. I scraped some off of my tree, but, you know, you really have to spray them before they lay their egg masses.
You know, the one idea that you brought up that I thought was a good idea, we do have a lot of these extra trees coming from different departments. Anything that's on our property that has those trees that kind of attract them, we should just get rid of those trees.
Well, that's what I'm gonna,
What?
We should get rid of.
Yeah, we should get rid of them anyway, yeah.
Regardless.
well, that's what I'm gonna try to do.
Right, let's get rid of those trees, at least that helps.
Right. You know, but, we have while I was looking for the spotted lanternfly, I found 4 more ash trees in Hirschfield Park. Now, we've already taken quite a few trees from Hirschfield Park, and we really don't want to take that, but these are ash, they're dead. So, so as soon as you double my budget for the Shade Tree Commission.
You have money in there, Andy, you have money.
Well, they just completed Downs just completed their last removal
Oh,
spot.
good, okay. so
When you get the bill, you'll see how much money we really have.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Wow, I'm gonna go Council President Polidori, Councilman Begg. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Approval of minutes, motion to approve the following minutes, regular meeting minutes, September 14th, 2022. Can I have a motion? Councilman Lime, is that you?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Councilman Bennett? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Resolutions and payment of bills in the amount of, the number there, 5 million. Motion to approve the following bill list as stated below.
So moved.
Councilman Begg?
Second.
Councilwoman Kent? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Consent agenda. Does anybody need anything removed? I would like number 2226. Anybody else? Nope. Okay, Liz, whenever you're ready.
Whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Compton Lakes have reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Compton Lakes does its desire to remove resolution for individual action from that agenda, now therefore be it resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 22-2222 through 22-228, and we're going to remove Resolution 22-226.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the resolutions?
So moved.
Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilman Bennett? All in favor? Against? Okay, resolution 22-226.
Authorizing the use of municipal open space trust funds for improvements to the Carlo Field facility.
Okay, I just wanted it removed because we should have some discussion. We're going to vote on spending some money from the open space. And Paul and I met with the engineer and the building department. And I just want everybody to understand what we're doing. And Jen, you can help with this because you're sitting on that board. Explain what we're looking to do and what they're looking to do.
So I've spoken with each of you individually.
But for the public side, yeah.
Carlo Field has requested that they use some of the open space funds for improvements, particularly for any of you that are familiar with the field. The press box is very old and in very bad shape and is actually hazardous at this point. So we had the engineer and the building inspector come down to the field to look at it and see what could be done. It has to maintain the same footprint, but the building, Sal is going to work with them on at least being able to reconstruct a new structure that will be more compliant, safer, maintaining the same footprint. And Open Space met, I guess it was 3 months ago now, and agreed to offset some of the costs of these improvements. We are willing to contribute no more than $50,000 to the project. After that, they will be paying out of their own funds.
And Paul, if you want to add anything about what we discussed about the engineering and things like that.
Yeah, so this particular project, I will be working directly with
Jared.
Jared. I forget the organization.
PLR1L.
Yeah. So I will be working directly with them for the purchasing and final construction because it's on public land. It falls under the local public contracts law. So once we have the authorization, which you are doing tonight, if that's what you so desire, I will work with Jared in terms of what it is they're doing to ensure we're compliant with the law, and that we have engineering drawing and plans to ensure the safety is preserved when they redesign the press box. And we will be applying for permits because with the borough, although we don't pay for our own fees, it is something that we should do in order to apply for a permit so that it is inspected to ensure, like everyone else is required, that what is constructed on public property is safe and has the approval of the respective subcode.
And we'll be providing our engineers to draw up the plans.
Right,
So it's done properly and done right.
exactly,
And then however they want to put it together to make it work, we'll work with them to make that happen.
right.
But we want to make sure the plans are correct before we move forward, that's all. Okay, so any questions on it?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say was, if you remember, this is why we changed our open space ordinance. While this primarily benefits a youth organization like PRYO, and then this was not a park that was purchased using open space, it does benefit our residents, it does benefit the school kids, or the children that are participating. It is a facilities improvement. We're not buying football helmets, we're not buying footballs, things like that. There was a concern when we went to go change this. So this is a useful use of the open space, and that's one of the reasons why we changed the open space ordinance in the first
And I think we should add to that, and we spoke with the engineer, it is also a safety concern, because the building itself, the way the stairs are constructed, it's not a safe way to enter and exit this complex, and we're afraid somebody could get hurt there, so it does have to be addressed one way or the other, because it's not an old man's sport climbing up 2 floors of stairs straight up to get into the press box and talk up there. So that's the other part of it. Any other concerns, questions? Okay, let's just do a roll call on it, make it easy.
I think I need a motion.
Oh, can I have a motion, please? Council President Polidori.
Second.
Councilwoman Kent, was that you? Okay, and a roll call.
Councilman Delogne,
Yes.
Councilwoman Ken,
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori,
Yes.
Councilman Bennett,
Yes.
Councilman Bay.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, ordinances?
yep, when you're ready.
Ordinance for second reading, these have been advertised and posted. Ordinance 22-17, an ordinance amending Chapter 7 Traffic, Section 730, turn prohibition of the municipal code of the Borough of Compton Lakes to add a no left turn prohibition into Wanacue Avenue. Onto
Onto one.
Wanacue Avenue.
Okay, motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 22-17, just this ordinance.
So moved.
Councilman Begg,
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address this ordinance? You step up.
I got a question.
Well, okay, whoever. There were 2 of you.
This is a question.
Dennis Gilmer, 158 Mountainside Drive. The ordinance is no left turn out to Wanacue Avenue. Is that every intersection? No, just at this section that we're talking about. Where is that? Where they're doing the construction of the... the construction, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor, this is temporary, or this is
Permanent.
permanent? So when we come out of Babcock...
Need your name and address first.
Evangelista. 51 Lambert Court, Pompton, New Jersey. When we come out of Babcock Place now, we can make a left?
No, this is from Wanacue Avenue into there.
Oh, okay.
Right. Can't cross the double lane.
All right, so if I'm coming through there in the morning, I go to the next block to make the left, correct?
The next block to make a left to go where?
On Lennox Avenue,
If you're gonna go
to
that
go in
way.
that direction?
Yes.
And what happens at 8 o'clock in the morning on Lennox Avenue?
What do you mean 8 o'clock?
It's a one-way street for school.
Right, then you're gonna have to go to the next.
Correct?
Yeah.
So then we gotta go to Pompton Ave.
Yeah.
So
You can't, you're saying,
Hold on.
my point is, what is the rationale behind saying no left turn?
county actually is.
Yeah, there's a
County's
little bit of
required.
confusion. This doesn't affect Babcock Place.
It's
This
the parking
is
lot.
the driveway into the cafeteria.
It's into their
Oh,
parking area.
into the parking area. All right, I was assuming.
Into and out of.
Right.
There's 2 ordinances.
All right,
Has
so
no effect on that.
what is it, how does it read again?
You can't make a left-hand.
No,
turn.
no, the exact
You wanna read that?
verbiage.
It is, and I don't have the.
Okay,
ordinance
so-
with me here.
So that's why it's confusing. I'm assuming it was left-hand turn to the Babcock.
So the
No,
first,
Babcock is ours. That's
the first ordinance, is Wanacue Avenue's northbound, along Wanacue Avenue, AKA Passaic County Route 684 northbound on the easterly side thereof, a distance of, I think that's supposed to be 6.092 feet from the west of the southwesterly property corner of thence. Where's what's written this? 2.271 feet to the north therefrom. Same thing southbound. It's basically dimensions away from the intersection, essentially. So it dictates the location.
The driveway and stuff.
Yeah, and it's gonna, and I imagine as part of site plan, it restricts the left-hand turns on the driveway.
Right, but again, it says no left-hand turn from Wanacue Avenue onto what? How
Into
does
their
it?
parking.
Into the parking.
Into their
Onto the
parking
parking.
lot.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There's
Anyone
a
else?
copy right there now
Up
of
top.
the ordinances.
Thank you.
Okay, motion to close the public session on ordinance 2217.
So moved.
Councilman Begg. Second?
Second.
Councilwoman,
The second
Kent?
ordinance relates to the same thing.
Yeah. All in favor?
You said that wrong, didn't you?
Wait, I have to do a
This
roll
says
call.
onto Wanacue Ave. You said from Wanacue Ave.
There's one onto and there's one from.
There's 2.
There's 2.
Yeah.
Okay, motion to approve ordinance 2217 for final adoption. I have a motion.
So moved.
Councilman Bennett, was that you? And Councilman Begg. Roll call, please.
Councilman Delogne,
Yes.
Councilwoman Ken,
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori,
Yes.
Councilman Bennett,
Yes.
Councilman Begg.
Yes.
Ordinance 22-18, an ordinance amending Chapter 7 Traffic, Section 711.1, vehicle stopping or standing prohibited of the municipal code of the Borough of Pompton Lakes to add a no stopping or standing prohibition on Wanacue Avenue.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 22-18. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilman Bennett. Second. Councilman Devine. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone like to address just this ordinance?
One more time, Randy Hitton, 443 Montclair Ave. One more time, explain this. There's no left turn onto Wanacue Ave or off of
Well,
Wanacue?
now this is on, but there was the first one. You talking about the first one or the second one?
Actually, Mayor,
I'm straightening them out both.
the first one was onto, and this is the, no stopping or standing along the curb. I got it confused with another.
Okay,
so-
Pair of ordinances.
On.
Okay,
Is that what you're asking? On?
well, just get, the attorney's having,
Yeah,
trying to straighten it out.
Stopping or standing. Unfortunately, you can't have access to that?
It's right in the front
Because I
here.
don't, yeah, it wasn't.
So
my
we're
agenda.
going back to the other ordinance. That's on.
So the way it's gonna work is, if you're coming from outside the parking garage, from the parking garage that's going to be built, you can't take a left onto Wanacue Avenue.
It's gonna make a left onto Wanacue Ave to go towards the library.
Correct, from the parking lot.
You can
Not from
take a
back.
left from Wanacue Avenue into the parking garage, there's no prohibition on that. So it's not off of Wanacue Avenue, it's only onto Wanacue Avenue. The second ordinance, it dictates where there's no stopping and standing along Wanacue Avenue in and around.
Correct.
most development.
And this is their own entrance and exit to their own.
So it has nothing to do with Babcock
Nothing to
Front?
do with
No.
that.
All right, so you could still come up Babcock along the old movie theater and make a left or a right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Seeing no one, motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 22-18.
So moved.
So moved.
Councilman Devine, Council President Baldori, all in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, it's a roll call.
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Deline.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Under my report, I had a meeting with the engineers and our DPW supervisor and our administrator and county engineers. We have some good news in that, and I've mentioned this before. We will be replacing both walk bridges across West Lenox Avenue and across Hirschfield Park, down in the park, with new one-piece bridges. The engineers came out to take a look at it to see how it was going to work and how it was going to, they were very happy to see that they think they can do it in one piece. And what that does for us, for everybody in the south and especially, it's going to remove all the stanchions underneath. So all the water will flow much better under both of those walkways. And I happen to live by the one right here. And when we get some heavy storms, trees and debris build up on those stands underneath and it blocks the water and pushes it left and right. So now without those there, that'll make the water flow, and these will be nice looking, what do they call them? Bridges? I forgot what they're called. Trusses, nice truss bridges. When we get a picture of them, I'll send it out to the council, we'll take a look at them, they haven't sent us pictures yet. So the deal is, they're gonna put them all in brand new for us, and then we take responsibility for these bridges as the town. Which is a good thing, because again, living by one of these bridges, the county is supposed to come clear the snow off of those bridges when it snows, and they got a lot to do when it's a snowstorm. Clearing one of our walkway bridges is on the bottom of the list, so we will be able to send our own guys there and clear out the snow. The only issue that they're gonna deal with, and we brought this up to them, especially the West Lenox Bridge, it is well used for children going to school, to Lenox School, to the high school, to walk. So we're gonna have to work out some plan to make it work so the kids can still get across that bridge to go to school. That might mean keeping the bridge there now and building the other bridge next to it and then taking down that one. It might be doing it during the summer, depending on the permits needed for the river. So there's a lot involved, but they started taking measurements and started talking about that. Along with this, and this was news to us, I didn't know about this till they told us, there is some talk and they're looking into replacing the Dawes Highway Bridge, which is owned by the county. I know a resident came up, that part is owned by the county. Believe it or not, that's a historic bridge. So once it becomes a historic bridge, there's a lot of restrictions put in on how that can be used. I've told them that's our biggest flooded area, that's our #1 flooding area on the bottom of Dawes Highway there. and anything we could do to relieve flooding there would be great. Now, hopefully, again, they can put a one-piece bridge there, but they're gonna have to keep the look and the shape of that bridge as it is what they're telling me. The other part of that is, we cannot, I know some residents will say, well, why don't we just raise the bridges and make them higher to make the water flow better underneath them? By law, we're not allowed to do that because it changes the water flow underneath, and they can't, the DEP won't allow that. So they've already asked that question to see if that's possible, and they said it's not possible. The other part of this is there's a bridge over in DuPont Village, that we've had some concern with, and there's a little hole in it. Nobody has taken ownership for that bridge over many years. So we've worked out a deal with them also that we're going to do the engineering on the bridge. They're going to build the bridge. We're going to pay to do the engineering. They're going to build the bridge, and they will take responsibility for that bridge. So at least we'll have a name for that bridge for someone to take responsibility from. My personal opinion is it was probably put in when DuPont came in and just, they just dropped the bridge there as a culvert and did what they had to do. But this is going to alleviate a lot of our flooding issues. I won't say alleviate, but help with our flooding issues tremendously, because those walkway bridges are old and they need to be replaced anyway, and the flow of water will be much better underneath them. So it was a good meeting. We also had a meeting right after that with our auditors, and we had some concerns and questions that the administrator could talk about that we seem to work out, and we signed the audit today, and everything seems okay with that. I had a meeting yesterday with the Iron Forge residents and board, because they have to replace their elevator there. It's been there 37 years, believe it or not, and they only have one elevator, and it's 5 stories, and they have some senior residents and some people in wheelchairs, and there has to be a discussion on how they can maneuver these people back and forth. So it was a well-attended meeting, and a lot of conversation happened. I think they settled that the elevator can be put in 1 week, and then it will become operational for the next 5 weeks, which is going to take to be put in 5 to 6 weeks, so they can have someone there to manually move the elevator for any extreme cases. If any residents are willing to offer their assistance to the seniors that live in that apartment, so they don't have to walk down 5 flights of stairs to get their mail or pick up their packages or their groceries, we're going to be reaching out. My police department has already offered. The Zonta Club out of the high school has offered. The Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts have offered to help. So that's what this community does. It helps. If you're on the 5th floor and you have issues going up and down stairs, it's going to be tough for 6 weeks not to do that. So we're going to try to help them the best we can, and I'm glad they were able to work that out. I attended the rec meeting tonight, and there's a lot going on with the rec department right now. They gave out some numbers, which we'll do a final report on Pompton Day, but Pompton Day worked out very well financially for the rec department. They did what they were supposed to do and raise funds for the programs they run throughout the year. They had a dance last Monday at the teen center, replacing the teen center, and there was 106 kids there at the dance, so that's a huge number of 5th and 6th graders, pretty big number there. October 23rd is our Halloween hunt, so that will be down at Hirschfield Park. Bring a flashlight, we'll supply you the pumpkin, and it starts from kindergarten all the way up to 6th and 7th grade. And lastly, don't forget, we have our garage sale weekend this weekend, Saturday's garage sale day. Please remember to drive slowly through the neighborhoods that day. There's a lot of people looking at stuff in driveways and not looking at what's in the road. So be extra cautious when your kids or anybody are out walking on Saturday. People are spending a lot of time looking on the, and lastly, the library stairs. There was a historic meeting Monday where the historic, and I'm sure Councilman Bennett will report on this, like the ideas of what was going to be presented. We'll now get that to the administrator to make the work happen. We really want to get those library steps open before the holiday stroll. So we'd like to have that open before that. So hopefully we can make that happen. There is some loose stone there, so it is closed right now. You can't walk up those stairs. You have to take the ramp. For anybody who doesn't know, there is a ramp that you can use to go into the library, but we'll hopefully have those stairs fixed. And that is my report. Council President Polidori.
Thank you. I am currently working on a project with Rotary and the VFW on site at the VFW for Windsor School. There is a garden that runs along the side of the VFW property along the parking lot that is behind Windsor School that has been overgrown. And there are some beautiful monuments and dedications in there to veterans, which haven't really been maintained very well. So Windsor School thought it would be a nice idea to incorporate some type of a teaching garden for the children in the program to show them what it looks like to actually start from seed or bulb to actual plantings and maintaining. So they will be making that part of their curriculum. They had asked myself and Jean Hoffman of the VFW to come down and look and see what we could or could not do there. It is in a floodplain. We called Sal Poli. He confirmed that we couldn't add any other type of bordering or fencing, but they can plant and put any natural, anything natural that they want to put in. So our next steps are to work with the Garden and Conservation Committee with the Women's Club and members of Rotary to help them make this a reality. I understand the importance of being able to bring something that is actually visual and hands-on for the children to be able to work on and see the plants grow, take care of them. And additionally, it's a benefit to the VFW because it is a beautiful stretch of garden space at the end of the property, and it will restore the beauty of the monuments. So that's something we're working on. I'm very excited about that. It will all be funded by donation through private groups in town, Columbia Bank, Rotary, individual donations, and with any luck, some hands-on help from some of the members of the Women's Club. So I also, following up on Parks and Gardens, met with both Dr. Amoroso and Dan O'Rourke of the DPW at Lakeside for the continuing discussion of Phase 2 for the sculpture that we had installed. An interesting development, the school will be shifting the creation and design concept of the sculpture over to the art teachers at Lakeside. And they will bring some of those students in to work with some of the special needs students on the finishing of the actual design and painting. So hopefully we get that done before the winter. I also did a site visit in Toms River with Dan to a park called the Field of Dreams, which was absolutely extraordinary. We were invited there by our playground vendor because he knew that we were starting to incorporate a lot of inclusive play space into our parks. And this is probably the most spectacular inclusive play space I've ever seen, fully enclosed. It is private, so they had a lot of help with grants through private institutions. But it's a fully inclusive play area with ball fields. We talked about splash parks. I know we have some restrictions on some of our parks, but we're going to start looking in a little deeper to see what we can do as far as maybe a splash park in one of our parks. And continuing to include this play space. I had just some really incredible equipment, and they utilize all of the rubber surfacing, which we've been looking at too. So I think it's a good partnership. We're going to continue to work with the individual who developed this concept and see what we can do as far as the next parks that we're looking to develop. I just want to remind everyone that we also have the car show on the 9th of October. And the firehouse, Al, I don't know if you're going to mention this or not, but they are having in Fire Prevention Week a big open house so that the children can come in and see the different stations in the firehouse. Refreshments will be served. I believe the goal is to make it a little bit better and bigger than it has been in years before, so the information has been shared throughout all of the school systems. And I did share on social media a post with, I think we have, 10, 12 different things coming up in October. October is going to be a pretty awesome month here. There's a lot of festivals, a lot of activities, not only through the town, but through our local organizations. So fall is here, and I hope everyone enjoys everything that we have coming forward. And I did want to just make a comment on some things that were referenced in the last council meeting, because there was, in fact, a redevelopment meeting. And I know during some of the comments in the exchange that went back and forth last time, there was a remark made about my not attending the meetings and kind of like a suggestion that I attend this meeting. It was pretty widely known that there was a Meet the Candidate event that evening. So I, in fact, was not able to attend the redevelopment meeting. I know Councilwoman Kent went in my place, but I did go back and look through my notes, and I did attend and I just bring this up just to clarify some things that were said during the last meeting, because I do attend numerous events a week and numerous meetings a week. I obviously can't be at more than one at a time, but I felt the way that those remarks were left, it was almost like I wasn't making an effort to attend the meetings. I did in fact attend the March redevelopment meeting. There was not another one again until May, and there was a large PTA event that night, and then there was not another one again until September. I have looked to see the minutes, as I always read when I cannot make the meetings. They're not yet up. But like I said, I was at a candidate night that night. I could not be in more than one place at a time. So I just wanted to put it out there that even when I'm not attending one meeting on behalf of the town, I'm doing something else at another meeting on behalf of the town. And I just felt like I needed to clarify that. And that is my report.
Thank you. Councilman Beck.
Thank you. I attended the Pompton Lakes Redevelopment Agency meeting on September 15th, 2022. On the agenda was a resolution authorizing the execution of redevelopment agreement between 525 Wanacue Avenue Associates Urban Renewal LLC and the Pompton Lakes Redevelopment Agency. Resolution was passed. I attended the Pompton Lakes Municipal Utilities Authority on September 19th, 2022. Financial Chair Neil Galetta spoke about increasing the salaries of Anthony Garcia and Justin English. Same was passed. He also reported the MUA cost for the month of ending September 19th, 2022 was $466,154.22. On July 22nd, 2022, the MUA lead service line identification and replacement plan was submitted to the NJDEP. On August 1st, 2022, the MUA received the full executed 5-year contract from Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission for sludge disposal. All MUA operation employees attended an in-house online seminar for sewer jetting and vector safety. Finally, beginning Monday, October 17th, 2022, the MUA will conduct its fall hydrant flushing program. The flushing will take place between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. And that's my...
And I'm glad you brought that up because I know the borough gets a lot of calls and people get calls about brown water. That's why you're gonna have some brown water if they're, redoing the hydrants and testing them. So just keep that in mind, please, that they are doing that hydrant flushing. Also, while you're bringing that up, it is fall. If you do have a storm drain in front of your house, please clean the debris of the storm drains, any leaves and things, because if they are blocked, they do cause flooding, pond flooding in the streets, and that can cause a problem. So just please take care of that. Councilman Cruz, I will read. He has a motion. He's not here. I will read it. Motion to approve the request of the Pompton Lakes Riverdale First Aid Squad to hold a tag sale fundraiser on October 9th, 2022. The rain date of October 16th, 2022, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Squad members will be stationed at the intersections of Hamworth Turnpike and Ramapo Avenue seeking funds for motorists. They will be wearing certified traffic vests for safety. The traffic control plan has been approved by the Pompton Lakes Police Department. A letter has been submitted to the Passaic County Board of County Commissioners. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Councilman Venon, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay. Councilman Doyle.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Monday, I attended the Library Board of Trustees meeting. There was discussion about the construction of the library steps. The last thing I had heard was that we're waiting for a proposal from Rob Walker to do the work. Was that submitted?
He hasn't submitted it yet, but he wanted to go to the Historic Commission first. They'll get okay.
Which he's done.
He did Monday, so,
Okay.
or Tuesday.
All right, so that's moving forward in some manner. Okay. Along with the library, there are some events coming up at the library. The first one is this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. There's a local author, Luann Smith, who will be discussing the insight behind of her inspirational book, A Peaceful Start, which is Messages of Hope, Inspiration, and Insight for Inner Peace. Also on Saturday, October 15th, the bid will be holding the annual pumpkin painting and scarecrow contest. from 12 to 4 p.m. at the Pompton Lakes Library. So bring your best handmade creation and enter and win prizes. And then actually which started this Saturday, September 10th, the library actually resumed their normal Saturday hours. They're now open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So they've moved on from the summer hours.
Did they bring back story time or not?
They have been doing story time, but I haven't seen anything recently. So this past Sunday, I attended the Trails Maintenance, Fall Trails Maintenance. This is the first of 2 Fall Trails Maintenance, along with Councilman Bennon, a number of the Trails Maintenance volunteers, and again, once again, Columbia Bank really came out to help out. So we worked on the trails. One thing I'm going to ask the administrator, since I'm thinking about it now, is that we noticed a number of work getting done on the red trail, and it seemed like it was almost like putting those like concrete footings for a bridge onto the red trail, and it seems like it might be from Passaic County Parks, but I don't know if we got any indication that they.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any emails on that. Have you seen it? No.
Yeah, so, I'll send you some information and photos.
I don't remember, I remember they asked about something, and then I was following up back and forth, but I didn't think it was about a trail, I think it was more about a footbridge or something.
Well, that
could be,
yes,
so
yes.
part of the problem was the red trail had 2 footbridges, small, footbridges over some ditches along the red trail. And when we've gotten flooding conditions in that area, what they've actually done is kind of lifted up the bridge and carried it off a little bit. So I think what they're doing is they're putting concrete footing so they don't have to worry.
Was this fresh on the ground?
It looked like relatively fresh.
Okay, so it might be.
But there was there's vehicle tracks and things like that. It looks like it's very purposeful, but we just didn't know anything about it, so.
I will look at that.
Okay, and that concludes my report for right now.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Kent.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I want to first send my prayers out to the Floridians who are dealing with that horrible hurricane, and people here understand what flooding means and the hurricane, and I pray they come out of that safely. I also attended the redevelopment meeting this past September, and I also chaperoned the middle school dance from the rec commission. And Mayor, that's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade now. We don't do the 5th grade. That was a one-time deal.
I give you credit for chaperoning that bunch.
Oh my God. It was interesting. They're no longer afraid of COVID. They were out and about that day. But it was a lot of fun, and I'm sure they're going to continue on with those dances. I also attended the Flood Advisory Board meeting, and again, the group has one opening, so we are looking for people, if anybody's interested in a flood advisory meeting, just to contact me. We're just letting everybody know if they have an interest in it, and we're asking that if you do, if you contact me, we're going to ask you that you come to the next meeting, just see if you like it or not, but we do have one opening. The message from our DPW superintendent, Dan O'Rourke. This is important because it's the last twice a week garbage collection is scheduled to stop. Okay, so collection for your garbage twice a week now will stop on October 6th and 7th. And after that, they're going to start collecting leaves. So the leaf season will start on October 13th and 14th. So if you put your garbage out on those days, they're not going to take it. They're only going to take the leaves. And the leaves you have to put your leaves to the curb in either the leaf bags that you can buy at DPW or in garbage barrels proper size. The leaf bags can be purchased at the town recycling center at the cost of $1 for 2 bags or $4 for 10 bags. So I guess you want to get the $4, it's a better deal. And please remember, after this weekend, town-wide garage sale, if you have any metals that you didn't sell, then please keep them separate. That is not garbage, okay? So they won't take any of your metal with your normal household.
But they will drive and pick it up later.
They will pick it up later. They just ask that you keep it separate.
Right.
Okay? So you can leave it out for that, all right, okay? And any questions, Dan O'Rourke, you can call the town. met with, I just happened to meet with the USCPA representatives at the Roth Cleaners. I was driving by and I happened to see their truck and I happened to, see some yellow police lines. They were removing asbestos. And supposedly, once all this is going to be done, we should be in good shape to, do what we have to do and it'll be clean.
Good.
And they were very nice. They were very nice. They explained everything to me. We exchanged cards, and it was very good to see that. To see that project resolved will be a huge benefit to the town.
And I have to thank Pat from the local EPA that comes every Thursday.
Yeah.
She spearhead that with other groups.
Pat Seppi. Yes,
that
that's
was a
what
big deal. It was a big help.
Yes, that was wonderful. And so that seems to be on a good path. I just wanted to say about the lantern flies. I'm a tree hugger, not ashamed of that. And I just hope that we can try to reach out to maybe our Passaic County Extension Service, to Rutgers Agricultural, because to me, cutting down trees to get rid of insects is backwards thinking. That's my opinion. We have ways of dealing with insects, and pests and infestations. And I would just like to, before we start doing that, let's try to find out what methods are better used. And I have no problem with the old shoe method of smashing that thing. I got no problem with killing that bug that way. And if they want to call it squash or swat or stomp, do it. Some people are afraid to kill bugs outside, but this one has to be killed. But I just don't want to see the trees coming down, because every year there's a different bug. 5 years ago, you never heard of this lanternfly, and you never heard of the ash or borer insect. We used to have the gypsy moth, and then we finally do tree. So I don't know why New Jersey Agriculture can't come up with something to tell the counties and tell the towns, here's what you need to use. It seems that we should be there. I would ask that we go that road first. And I want to thank Councilman DeLine and Al Evangelista for mentioning that, we have lots of plans that we pay a lot of money on site. Let's look at some of those old plans before we try to reinvent the wheel. Let's put these fences up for the folks on Hunter Court. I think that's very important. So thank you for bringing that up, Al and Councilman. And I did because I see her sitting in the audience, there was a request on the Lakeside Avenue to remove some of the invasive species trees. I went out there with our superintendent, Dan, and we found a fence, and it's a green fence, and there's signs that says wetlands. So from the lake to this fence, that is a protected area. And then from the fence to the road seems to be, not protected area. It's not a wetlands. So I think I've reached out to Paula and asked her to reach out to DuPont to find out how we can control those invasive species of those trees so they don't block the view, because Lakeside Avenue is beautiful, and it's a true asset to the community. So I think we have to figure out what we can do and what we can't do, anything inside the wetlands area. I don't know if we can do that, so I have to reach out, and Paula said she would be able to do that. Everything outside is different, so we just have to change a little bit of our process, so just so you know. Okay, and that is my report.
And I did make a call to Dave Epps to get some more information, so
Okay.
he hasn't called me back yet, so.
Yeah, young eyes, Dave, Dan had young eyes, and he saw those sign right then and there, and he saw the green, which was really buried in all of the vegetation, so, but he did see it, so we found it.
Thanks, Ernie.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start by congratulating the Pompton Lakes High School Marching Band on their second place finish last weekend in Roxbury. As a band dad, I helped out last year, and we typically finish last, 5th out of 5th. So this second place finish is pretty good in our division. So congratulations. Hope for continued success. Historic Commission met last evening, and we discussed the steps for the library. Rob Walker came with some samples. We wanted to keep in the historic look of the building, so we wanted to make sure that we were okay with what he presented to replace it with the Pompton, I believe, yeah, Pomptonite.
Comptonite.
Pomptonite there now is not possible to get large slabs like that. So, we had to just select a backup plan, which is limestone, which will still look nice.
But it had
So-
the dust too, didn't it? It had the dust?
That was one of the options we were looking at, to mix in the dust, but that wasn't a
That you
feasible
don't-
option. So we're going with the limestone, and we're just going to take it to the next step. So
Okay.
we can finish preferably before the holiday stroll, and it seems that we should be able to do that. And we also have 2 openings on the store commission, so if anybody's interested, please reach out to me. As Councilman DeLine mentioned, Trails Maintenance was on Sunday. Team Columbia Bank, thank you, Jim Hoffman. He wasn't there himself, but he had a team of like 5 or 10 people, I believe, large group. And my daughter and I decided this time to clean the kiosks and the Passaic County Greenway signs, because they're looking kind of dingy after a few years. Some of them are broken, actually. I gotta send you an email with, yeah, I didn't know they were plastic. I thought they were metal from far away. They're plastic, and we went up there, got the ladders, cleaned them up, so they're nice and shiny now for you. The next one is scheduled for November 27th. We meet at the back of Willow Field at 10 a.m. And then you get your assignment where you're going to clean up and then go from there. And, and Trailblazers were repainted as well on Blue Trail. And that is my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before we go to professionals, hot off the presses, we just reached out to the landlord there, and they will be putting in arborvitae in the back behind Lidl's Supermarket. That's a definite. And then they will address the fence when everything's said and done. They will take a look at the fence. If it needs to be replaced, they will replace it or repair it. But we still have to pull out the plans to see what's been proposed before that. But at least I know for certain now that they are putting the arborvitae in, because I wanted to make sure that was going on. Okay, professional reports, any report?
I just want to report, Mr. Mayor, I know that we were asked several meetings ago to work on an ordinance with respect to the boat dock and the parks in general. I'm pleased to announce that I think we have the semblance of the final form of the ordinance, and we'll have that to the administrator, I think, tomorrow.
And that's not an easy one, that's a tough one to put together.
Yeah, they were a little bit more challenging
Yes.
than we had thought.
So that's good news, thank you. That's it?
Yes.
Okay, administration report.
So thank you. I just want to start off with where you began with our meeting with our auditor. I wanted to review where the borough is at. One of the biggest issues that came up is not even an issue, but some of the decisions that have been made. I know Council President Polidori had brought it up, Mayor, everybody here has an interest in how are we going to spend the relief money. Approximately, like I believe, I don't have the audit with me, something like $335,000 was given in grants for our businesses. That leaves a balance of somewhere about $825,000 for us to comply with. I mean, there are rules and how we have to spend the money, but I believe there are projects, one of which I think is very important, is to replace all the HVAC systems on our buildings. They've been a real problem. I get a lot of phone calls. I think this is an opportunity to really get a full study and a full understanding of how all of these systems are working. I would like to recommend that. Obviously, that falls under the pandemic in that we're providing clean air, sanitary conditions that would fall under those requirements. The other issues, not issues, other projects, the temporary removal of DPW from a floodway zone in terms of safety. Again, I'm sure it will comport with one of the criteria of the American Relief Fund money. And I know we were going to talk about meeting with a group. I don't know if that would be the Finance Committee.
We'll start with the finance and then we'll work from
Start
there.
with the Finance
You
Committee.
had said it was going to be a committee, and I had asked to be on it, so.
Well, the finance committee, is the one who handles the finances, and then from there we can bring this, put it out. But it should start with the finance committee, it is a finance.
So as council president, can I ask to be included in that meeting also?
As long as someone from the finance commission is not on, you can't have 4 people there.
Okay.
I mean, if someone doesn't want to go, that's fine. But it's going to end up going
We
to a
talked
committee.
about this numerous times, about it being a committee.
Right, but the
Now it's a
the
finance
auditor
committee.
suggested starting with the finance committee.
Did the auditor specifically suggest starting with the finance committee?
I don't
No,
think the
I don't
mayor had a conversation.
Well, I spoke to him, he said you should
Okay.
start with that. He said, we can put it into a committee, that's not a
Okay.
problem. We can't have 4 there, correct?
No,
No.
I can't have a quorum.
Is anybody willing to step off and let the council president be there?
You don't need to put on the spot, it's fine.
Yeah, while we have some discussion among the finance committee and the administrators.
Okay, I'll do that. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, there's one of the things I also want to discuss is our road program. I know residents are concerned and, you know, my road doesn't look right, so on and so forth. The borough does evaluate, and we're going to continue that evaluation going through. So they are rated, and we need to put that together for next year. I know Lincoln Ave was done this year, but there's other roads, and there is money that you did budget, authorized funding for the road program. So that is available now, but getting back to the audit.
Well, let's just mention too, there was some conversation, putting some money aside to offset taxes on certain things too.
I don't think we can use.
No, you can, he said you can.
Well, offset revenues.
Revenues, yes.
So the whole purpose is to offset lost revenues, but to offset the lost revenues, I can look on the other side and put toward the capital improvement fund is what I asked.
Yes.
So that we can go ahead and do our infrastructure programs that we'd like to do.
Right.
That's what the money's for. You know, to relieve, you know, we lost revenues, and rather than to continue to hurt our taxpayers, to offset that with our capital projects so we don't have to bond this money, and we can use the cash for that purpose. You know, that was a concern. Our fund balance is very healthy. I don't have it in front of me, but I think we're close to $6 million, which is excellent for a town this size. So, you know, I'd like to keep that fund balance maintained, and, you know, it could be a very important balance, because you always want to ensure that your taxpayers don't take a hit, but you don't want to constantly hit your fund balance if you're not regenerating the kind of money that you are realizing in your budget every year. So I'm going to keep an eye on that, but right now you have a healthy fund balance, so we're in a good position here. We've permanently financed our money, so that's good, because given the current market, interest rates are going up. So that was a good decision of all of you to do that. It's just a matter of going over where some of our grant balances is, some of, you know, we have some grant balances that, unappropriated grant balances that need to come off our books. So just general bookkeeping that was discussed with our CFO. But overall, you know, going into the next budget year, you know, I'd like to start with our capital projects, because we need to get those going. I need to get an RFP going in terms of the professional engineer that's going to do the work for the DuPont Bridge. That is a big, big project, and that's not a project that, you know, I would recommend just awarding just by non-fair and open award. We should do an RFP, you know, to qualify the engineers in order to.
And that's our only piece, we're just paying for the engineering.
Exactly. So it's important, and the engineering part is a lot of money. It could be upwards of $250,000. So that's something that, you know, I would recommend to you. We met with, this morning, I met with our geotech engineer that you hired last meeting, with our DPW superintendent and the developer's contractor. We came up with a plan for the sinkhole. We're gonna excavate a 9 foot by 9 foot square. Let's see what's in there. The contractor needs to get a certification from an LSRP, which is a licensed site remediation specialist, in order for us to determine that the fill is clean. We don't want any, we got a sinkhole. We certainly don't want to fill it with something that needs to be excavated one day. So we're waiting for that. So he's not going to get that. It's at the lab. So we're hoping to start that excavation October. I believe we were looking at 10th or 11th.
That's making the hole bigger and taking a look.
And yes, so the geotech engineer will be on site to look at the stability of, you know, and the contents of what's in there. You know, let's just make sure that, you know, whatever is in there is stable, so that we can then compact it, fill it, cover it, and have the contractor do a temporary patch until our parking lot is fully paved, once they are done with their project. So we're gonna get our parking lot repaved.
And did they get their dirt qualified to use or not?
It's at the lab.
It's at the lab, okay.
So that's on its way. I've already informed the school superintendent about this a few weeks back. So once I have an exact date, I'll let him know. because, I really don't want students or parents walking on that access off of, Lenox Ave. And then in terms of school, we're planning it so excavation won't start until 9 o'clock. So
Okay.
parents and kids and everyone will
After
be
drop off.
gone. And then this way employees will have been able to come to work, so it shouldn't affect anything like that.
Have they sent any concepts or designs for the Civic Center?
So, I will follow up on that. The attorney, when we spoke, he was gonna do the financials with regard to our request
Okay.
to demo the existing building and replace it with a prefab. I mean, given all of the repairs required and the damage as a result of the pile driving, it might just prove to be in their best interest
And hopefully it is.
financially.
And hopefully it is, yeah.
So they're let me follow up with the
Okay.
developer on that.
If they get to the point where they think that that is the best way to move forward, do we have discretion on the style of building?
Yeah, the redevelopment sets that. Well, it's in their agreement.
I
Well,
would
I mean,
think
I don't
we
think
would,
they'd have any say in this.
I would think we would.
Not in the style, but in the agreement right now is what you're supposed to do on the building.
Right, I understand that.
So I guess, Mayor, once if it evolves in that, I'll certainly request that we have input with regard to, how it looks. I mean, because I know storage was an issue, right? We wanted storage.
I think we have some police, some storage that we're paying for
In the
off-site
back was a
storage.
police storage area.
Right.
So once we get to that point, by all means, I will be putting together a list of, what.
But it's in the redeveloper's agreement, so it would have to go back to the redevelopment board to, if there's changes.
Oh, okay.
So that's what's gonna
What's in the
happen.
redeveloper's agreement?
Still
This is not
getting
part
used
of
to
that
this whole
property.
redevelopment.
Yeah, no, fixing that building's in the redevelopment agreement. What they're
It
gonna
just happened
do.
here at a table a few weeks ago. What do you mean?
No, it was put into the redevelopment agreement on how they're going to fix the building, what they're going to replace, windows, doors, this, that's all in the agreement. So it has to go back to the agreement if we're gonna get a new building, it would have to go back to the redevelopment.
So I
This
asked
was
them.
part of the original deals, that
This was
they were going to enhance it, right?
Right,
Okay.
so I asked them, based on what they agreed to and based on what has now occurred, it almost seems financially more responsible to just demo the building and put.
And I hope it is, yeah, I hope.
I mean, the floor, structurally, there's just, so I'm just gonna leave it there.
Real quick, back to the sinkhole. Do we have any concerns that there are other areas of the parking lot, either ours or the high schools, that might have been compromised, that maybe haven't yet resulted in a sinkhole?
So
Like, I don't know the extent of like the geotex analysis, if it's just in the sinkhole, or if it's the entire, surrounding parking areas.
So if we've got to go to that extent, we're stopping excavation and we're gonna reevaluate. Right now, we're just gonna deal with the immediate situation with the sinkhole.
Okay.
And by the way, I did give her all the background, and that's why this meeting was called today, to have a plan to understand what is underneath there. I'm gonna send her the engineering drawings of what was there. I think Mark had them from like 1970 something. The existing structure that is there now underneath, or whatever existed now, before and the after. So she will have all that data, so that when they start the excavation, I just want her to have that frame of reference as she's evaluating the ongoing excavation.
So just so everybody's on this,
Do we have any intention or desire to do more testing on the grounds in the area before we continue with any more redevelopment, now that we've already had one issue?
So she did ask me, are we planning to develop anything more in that parking lot? And I said, no. I mean, we're not gonna put anything, that's our parking lot.
and part of the issue, just so the board knows, whatever there initially, there was a hotel or whatever it was initially there, back then, 100 years ago, they just demolished it and dumped everything in the hole. So that's part of what the issue is. There's foundation still under there, there's things still buried under there that they're gonna have to look at and address.
So anyway, that's it. So we're gonna look at the immediate area. If, as the excavation goes, and we see something more that Councilman DeLine has brought out, it's gonna stop. And we're gonna reevaluate, because now we're looking at something bigger And that's gonna require some more conversation.
But that's what this geotech engineer is here for.
Absolutely.
That's
And
the job.
you know what, she's good, I've used, Johnson Soils before. Her proposal was more financially advantageous to the borough, so.
Is testing the ground around future redevelopment sites normal protocol so that this doesn't happen again?
Well, pile driving, so what we know is we didn't have a sinkhole before the pile driving. When the pile driving occurred, we now had a sinkhole. So that's really the only quote-unquote scientific evidence. However, part of that sinkhole could also be a result of what's underneath. So that is why the borough share of this is to hire a geotech and its own geotech engineer. And the contractor, the developer, is footing the cost of the excavation and then getting the fill certified and then
I'd like just to interject a little bit on this. First of all, I think it's wonderful what you've done with respect to this, and what the developer has voluntarily agreed to do so for. And I'm not looking a gift horse in the mouth, and I'm not trying to make things more complicated than they need be. But I am concerned that we may be discussing certain things in public that may affect negotiations with the developer if certain circumstances evolve into a more adversarial scenario. And I think that we maybe should be a little bit more measured with what we say in public in that regard. Because it would be negotiations, certainly, again, not being adversarial, but it could potentially evolve into litigation or a dispute of some nature. And I think that we want to be a little bit measured in how much, with respect to potentialities, we divulge in a public setting, because the other side is hearing what we're discussing and thinking. With that being said, I think that the council president brought up a pretty good point about redevelopment and pile driving, and I know that we had discussed this amongst ourselves, and I discussed it with you, Mayor. There are, cities, urban centers that are more used to having pile driving, high rises, and more substantial development than a typical suburb would ever typically confront. And now that we saw what the result of pile driving could be, I think that we probably should at least communicate with the redevelopment agency with respect to future redevelopment agreements and put in some safeguards. I don't know necessarily that we have to do it in the code, because after this redevelopment.
Could you talk to Andy Brewer and discuss that?
Sure, yeah. I think Jersey City has some very good ordinances that we probably could.
And Ben is from Jersey City.
Yes, he's probably very familiar.
So maybe that's a good conversation you three should have.
Okay.
Because I agree, let's protect ourselves.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And this last one, very exciting, a location scout for building today.
We're becoming the new Hollywood here.
Yes, so CBS is looking at our municipal building to film FBI's Most Wanted. So hopefully we're not.
And by the way, since we put in those new ordinances with the fee structure and everything, it will kick in for this.
Right, so anyway, the situation took place in Arkansas. So they're looking for a small, kind of, I guess we kind of look like an Arkansas municipal building.
I don't know if I should be thrilled or insulted.
I don't know what that means, but all right.
I don't know about that.
Well, they're looking for a small town feel. So the thing is that they really, so he walked around, he took pictures of our council chambers, and he really likes our main office. So the thing is that, he goes, Paul, I have to tell you, if the borough decides, I'm letting you know, the crew will take over. I'm talking the crew. Big, like, cameras, people, we're gonna use the hallway. So I said, are you gonna pay everyone's salary? and, professionals to do our work while you guys are filming, we'll be more than happy. And then, of course, the fee with the application, or I'm speaking about negotiations in public.
That's very
And they were also interested in the,
So let me just stop when I negotiate.
but they were also taking a look at the MUA.
So they did, so they liked the feel of it, so I said, all right, so maybe if we don't disturb all of Borough Hall, I brought them to the building department, because then those two folks maybe can come work, in another office while they film there. But they, he's gonna take all those pictures back, to, whoever, the powers that be, to see if our Borough Hall, and they basically had, I said, but so what's the interest? Why Compton Lakes? It's because I said, it's gotta be because you're close to the city, we're closer to the city. And they said there's a 30-mile radius in which they must operate in from Manhattan. So I said, I think we're here, we're here. So, let me know and we'll start a negotiation.
And we are still on track with The Walking Dead. They're still interested in coming here to film. They're still alive.
I have one other question for you before, if you have nothing else. Can I ask you one more question?
No, that was it.
I read Chris Sprague's email.
Yes.
It looks like one of the criteria under that would fit with the sidewalking. Did you feel optimistic?
Yes.
Beautification, at the very least, it looked like would.
And he confirmed it, that grant is for 2023, so that's something, and that's something I'd like to talk, we need time. Some of these grants, particularly the TAP grant, we need time to really plan that out. That is an extremely intense grant, and I just want to, during our conversation with the DOT, part of that grant is they require daily inspection. That could run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions. Every day, someone has to be on site. I just ran some numbers just for the trails that Lauren had worked, and at first I just wanted to do a shout out to our Trails Committee. Honestly, I think it's great. Brainstorming is the beginning of the beginning of the end of seeing realities, and I think it's great. And there will always be transformations as we continue on, but just in crunching simple trail numbers and sidewalk numbers, we're already about $500,000.
And that tag grant we found after
And
talking
the
doesn't
grant
really
is only
fit
for
us.
1.5.
Right.
And now we're talking about, so this is something I would like, I know Councilman DeLine is of great interest, and a lot of energy is here to work on this, and I would like to continue working on this concept. We're just not ready for this year, but I think we need to really figure out what we want to go after. I want to focus, I'm about success. Let's focus our energies, because grants will be coming all around. We really have to see where we best fit and where we can win. And that's what I'd like to do with you.
The TAP grant comes around every 2 years. So
Exactly.
if it's not this round, it can be.
This wasn't the TAP grant, this was the DOT.
No, your grant is something different.
Yeah.
I kind of segued into that.
And the TAP grant, when we met with them, said, look, you don't have enough time to even put this together, really. You would really do a disjustice to doing it. So he kind of said to wait on it. And so
Oh, that's right, now you remember.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
he said, look, you do it right, do it maybe the next cycle and see how it goes.
They did like the connection to Lincoln School. It's always good to give the boys and girls, people, anybody, get people on bikes. We've got to keep ourselves moving, biking, walking, those are all good things, and that's what they support, so.
Okay, any other questions for the administrator? No? Okay. Can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments? So moved. Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilman Baig, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
Good evening again, Al Evangelista, Ringwood Court, and a member of the Historical Commission.
And I need a number.
Speaking of the hotel, it wasn't a hotel.
Whatever.
Okay, the original municipal building sat directly behind this building. And in 1979, they built this facility. When this facility was occupied, they tore that building down. That was the original school in Pompton Lakes before Lennox School. Okay, you'll see pictures of it in our archives. Okay, so it was the original the original municipal building. After the school built that, they took that over, and it pretty much put this footprint. The police were on that side, we're all on this side, council chambers in the middle, almost an exact replica. This building was built by CETA funds, if you remember that, back when they had a CETA program. this building cost us $200,000. Okay, and the shortcoming is not putting a basement in it because it was $90,000 to do so, and they decided not to spend the $90,000. Or you would have all the space that you need for storage. However, that building was very old that they tore down right behind this part where the parking lot is now. So I can't imagine the old foundation that might be under there, tanks. We had a gasoline tank right outside the Civic Center, correct, Kat?
All right, so what the attorney mentioned, let's not really talk about.
This side was perhaps fuel, who knows? But in any event, we had a sinkhole issue a couple of years ago, if you remember, in this parking lot, where they had to come in and remediate it. So
It was small.
it was small, but the bottom line is, there was a building there at one time, who knows what's there now? Obviously, with that shake and bake next door, with all that stuff going on, we are where we are. So who knows? But that's the history of that.
There was a basement in the building and 2 stories high.
Yes, it was a 2-story building. Probably had more room than this building did, unfortunately. And then in 1980, the year after, they built the firehouse. So these 2 buildings came one year after the other. Second issue, Mayor, the Dawes Highway Bridge. I've constantly heard that it's a historical bridge. What I would like us to do, because I'm really sick and tired of hearing that, let them provide us with documentation as to why it's a historic bridge. I don't know if it's the design of the bridge.
It falls under SHPO.
SHPO
State
was,
Historical.
yeah, SHPO was involved in
Yeah,
this.
but why?
Is it SHPO?
Why? What is it about the bridge that makes it
They
historic?
told us they're having their own issues with dealing with the Historic Society about the bridge, so.
Our Historic Society?
No.
Oh, the state, yeah. Because my recollection, the bridge has always been like that. And when I did some research on Dawes Highway, because I was researching street names in Pompton Lakes, Dawes was a general in George Washington's Continental Army, okay? And that's where the name Dawes comes from. And the highway, if you look that up, spelled H-Y-W-A-Y, a highway was an elevated platform roadway. So when you come over that bridge, the description that I read was there was a wooden plank like Patterson Plank Road, was a wooden plank above the flood area, the wetlands, that you could traverse from one end to the other, which would make sense. And then after some time, I guess the road was taken away and paved and drained and whatever they did there. So what I would like to know is why it's a historic bridge. Is it the architecture of the bridge?
Yes.
If it's just the architecture, I mean, it's unfortunate that's standing in the way of people losing their homes.
We did press that issue greatly, that we'd like some improvements.
Right,
and said,
because-
they tie our hands with this.
You know, by all engineering standards today, the bridge is dangerous. Very limited sidewalks, very limited sightline over the bridge.
It's gonna be a wider bridge with more better sidewalks.
Exactly.
That it would have.
Okay. But I'd still like to see why
I
it
will
was
ask for
declared
that.
I was
a
gonna say,
historic
Al,
bridge.
being on the historic commission, I mean, I think it's historic. It might be eligible for historic, but it may not be on the National Register of Historic Places. And I think that's what would generate the protections.
Exactly.
It's like any of our other buildings that are extremely old and the architecture associated with it. We've got the local
Right.
landmarks and stuff like that. But realistically, they're not protected structures or buildings, things like that.
I can only go by what the county
I know, I'm
engineer
just saying,
said.
like, I think there needs to be a discussion with the county that
I
they
agree.
would have to produce the fact that that bridge is on the National Historic Register.
I mean, there's no markers on it. There was never any markers on it.
Again, you know, this is preliminary, they're still determining what they're gonna do, this could be years away, but he did make it a point to say, I'm sorry, what was that, Paula, again, SHPO? Is that what it's called?
SHPO.
SHPO. There was part of SHPO and there was some
Actually,
concerns.
that acronym stands
It's
for. I
State
know
Historic
Health.
Preservation Office. State Historic Preservation Office.
That's it.
Thank you.
There's no other.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Sure.
I think if it's historic, then they should dig it up and put it in a museum.
I don't think I've ever said that.
It'll go in the famous
That's
bridge
on there.
museum in the South Jersey.
They have museums for many industrial issue, and that bridge has just got to go. It's
I am
dangerous.
100%.
I don't care, put any museum there.
Thank you.
That's my alternative.
Anyone else with a phone, please step up. Oh, you fight over it, I don't care which one.
Lisa Kilberg, 158 Mountainside Drive. I sit on the board of the library, and I'm a member of the Pompton Lakes Women's Club. And I wanted to let you know that, as you have seen, the Women's Club dedicated a bench to Dr. Margaret Freethey. And the Friends of the Library has asked that we coordinate with them for the 110th anniversary of the library this coming month in October, a dedication ceremony for the bench. So when we collaborate that, that'll just be another event that.
So you want it, do they want it at the event, or they want a proclamation read, or do you know what they're looking for?
I'm not really sure yet. I just wanted to make you all aware of it because it's probably going to happen really fast and we all coordinate together because the Women's Club doesn't meet again until October.
All right, so if they want, here's what I need. If they want a proclamation, I have no issue with that. I would need someone to provide the information to myself and to the clerk, so we
Okay.
can put the proclamation together. If
Okay.
that's what they're looking for. If they want to do an event where the council is at the event, just let us know. We'll meet down there. We could do both. We could do the proclamation
Okay.
at the event if that's what they're looking
Perfect. Thank you.
for. Okay, thank you.
Jeff Tynan, Ringwood Ave. You talk about the Civic Center. They're gonna fix it up and maybe even put a new building there. What are your thoughts about buying this dentist office plot and putting in parking?
That's already been bought by the developer.
By who?
The developer.
Yeah, I know, I haven't heard much about that new development. I know Jimmy's not gonna sell.
No, it's in so they're waiting on a license that comes from the MUA. It has to go to Trenton. Trenton has to approve the water usage, and then it comes back from Trenton, and they start the building. So they're waiting on this permit from
So
Trenton.
that project is still,
Oh, it's 100%, yes, 100%. They spent a lot of money on properties. I don't think they're walking away.
it was sitting there. I thought maybe the project was dead and it would be a good place to
Yeah,
put
they
more
actually-
parking in for the Civic Center.
They actually put parking there. That's what it's
I
going to be.
believe they're gonna use it for parking. For their parking.
They're the ones who tore it down, actually. We didn't tear that down. But it's a good idea.
Yeah, I saw it vacant, so I figured, what the hell, you know?
Yep.
It's a great place, but parking's at a premium,
Yep.
especially during the day.
Right, and they need the spots for their apartments that they're building. Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Go ahead, come on up. Al, you get one shot.
It's about the movie.
It's about the what?
It's about the movie, it's important.
No.
No, go ahead. Good, Dave.
David Farron, 107 Federal Hill Road. Just wanted to get an update on the pond hole. It's probably not 100% done yet, is it?
No, but we're 85%. We're just about to order the pay stations. They got to do some more work with the fence that's going to go in the middle. A little bit of striping has to be done. So it's about 85% done.
Oh, okay, yes. So now the kids are gonna have to, the high school kids are gonna have to pay for parking while they're in school?
The high school kids have always paid for parking. And
Oh, I didn't know that.
Same number of spots we've always offered, 30 spots. Right now, they have only used about 20 of them. And I am in some talks with the superintendent and the school board to see if I can make things better, but it's still in negotiation, so I can't really say much yet.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was at the last Board of Ed meeting a couple weeks ago, and I did hear something about pay stations being put down there.
The pay stations are on us, and Paul, if you have any information you want to add on that.
So yes, there'll be 2 pay stations there, and I'm just working out with the vendor in terms of, I think initially we expect to have coins to be used and
Yeah.
credit cards, but I think.
Yeah, I heard that from the Board of Ed.
So, and they only have 2 credit cards, and I wanted to see why American Express wasn't on there, because folks do that. So, that's what I'm doing. And, so it takes 4 weeks. I thought I would have had them by now, but I had more questions for the vendor, and I needed to get another quote, because it is gonna cost, it'll cost about $15,000. For, it's installed, and they have to,
There'll be solar
teach
power.
us, and then there'll be solar and battery operated.
Battery operated.
So there'll be green pay stations.
Green, we're not a big green color here, we're a red color, just so you know.
Green, red.
And also, and for Pompton Day, I know Eck and Maria weren't there, and Courtney wasn't there either. So just to give you an update on that, and Jennifer, I'm sorry I got to tell them this, but I got Jennifer 4 times on dunk tank and
I lost because of you.
Huh?
I lost because of you.
Really?
You dumped Jared more than you dumped me.
Yeah, cause I bought 9 balls for you. So I got you 4 times and Jared, I bought 12 balls and I nailed him 7 times in a row.
You weren't supposed to be nicer to me.
Huh?
I wanted to win.
Huh? Huh?
I wanted to win. You weren't supposed to be nice to me.
Well, I got you a little less because you're up here. And for Jared, because I've known him since through friends from Oakland when I was growing up, and also then so Jared also was at the Board of Ed meeting as well, along with Bill and Bobby. Then Jared and I were talking with Dr. Amoroso after the meeting. Then Jared's like, so we were telling Dr. Amoroso that I nailed him 7 times in a row. And he's like, oh, why did you nail me so many times? And I said, because you don't call or text me. So one ball was call me, text me, call me, text me. Then AJ Rodriguez was there too. And I said, you better be careful. AJ's hearing me. And so you got a cop here, so AJ's my witness, so you better get on it.
Thank you. Thank you for dunking everybody, and spending the money.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But since you're up here, I got you a little less than Jared, so in a way, I was a bit nicer to you.
I won't hold it against you.
Okay. All right, thanks, Mayor.
Thanks. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
I don't know how I could top that. Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Avenue. Councilman Devine speaking before about the red trail. I was watering trees down on Elm Street and saw the tracks going through the field and followed them all the way in and talked to the machine operator that was working on both those bridges. So I don't know if they were set yet, but the county is in there on the red trail doing the work there. So,
That's good. I mean, it'd be nice if they told us, but that's good.
yeah, well, you know, it was unfortunate. I see the operator working by himself with nobody around. From my perspective, that's an unsafe working condition, but I don't work for the county. The press box worked at Carlo Field. How often is that press box used? Is it?
Every game.
Every game.
It is used?
And it's-
That's where they
it's,
announce from?
It has to be regulated, so it's regulation height. It has to meet certain code to be able to host the games there.
We would understand that, yeah. But I mean, similar to the press box at Hirschfield Park where the football stadium is, that's where they announce the game?
Yeah, so they have somebody up there,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, I haven't been down there in a long time during the game.
It's in pretty bad shape.
Yeah, I can imagine. You were talking about the footbridges replaced by the county and the maintenance of those footbridges, say in winter for kids going to school. It's nice that the county is going to replace them for us. Why don't they make them covered bridges, then you wouldn't have to shovel the snow.
I can mention it to them. I don't think they're
It's
gonna
just
go.
an idea, you know? Speaking about bridges that the kids use all the time, Lambert Street Bridge is in pretty bad shape going over the acid brook. Is anybody looking at that?
So you're talking about the wooden bridge or the?
The wooden bridge,
There's
yeah.
been discussion about it, and there has been easements granted to the person who had the house there. They wanted the bridge. You know, we're still talking about it. You know, it's a gray area at best because They initially wanted it and now they don't, so I can't really address that right now.
Well, I mean, the Acid Brook itself, is that owned by the town, or is that owned by the DuPont?
No, if it's on town property, we own the bed, we don't own the water.
Because we own that lot right opposite, right from Lambert Street, right along the Acid
Right, but
Brook.
that bridge happens to be on private property.
Okay. Because it's in bad shape, and the kids use it for middle school constantly.
We're gonna have to look at that at some point.
At some point, okay. What bridge? Let's see, Prospero College. Okay. I've been here before and I asked about 430 Montclair Avenue, and the building that they're looking to build on that. And I asked you about it and you said that I had to go to the appropriate meetings. And my argument with you was that most all those meetings are canceled. And we've gone through this already. But I did go to the RDA meeting, Redevelopment Agency meeting. And of course, I brought it up for 430 Montclair Ave, and I was told that that's not in the redevelopment agency, not in the redevelopment zone.
Well, it's not in the zone one, but it's in a concept plan still. So it's not been presented officially to the board.
Okay, but I still have questions about that project. And every meeting that I
It's
try
not a
to,
project. You can't ask questions on something that's not a project. They can't answer them. I mean, you can ask them, but they can't answer them.
Until an application is filed, it's not anything.
excuse me?
Until an application is filed, there's nothing before the borough for.
So there has been no application filed as of yet? Because I was going to attend the Board of Adjustment meeting, and that one was canceled.
Again, if there's an agenda, they have a meeting. If they don't, it's up to those boards to decide. And I agree, by the way, with them. If there's not an agenda, they shouldn't have a meeting. We're not calling in everybody who puts their free time in, like you, to come to these boards just to have nobody show up. It's just not fair.
Well, the public is on the agenda, and there is a public portion to all those
But
meetings.
most of the boards you're talking about have no public at them.
Huh?
Most of those boards you're talking about have no public at them.
They're a board of limited jurisdiction. They are supposed to be hearing applications. If they don't have an application, there's nothing for them to be talking to the public about.
So the public just can't come in and ask questions?
They're not there for that. They're there to adjudicate a board, as a board, over an application. So if there's not an application that's before them, there's no reason for them to convene.
But there is a public session.
That's a requirement of the Open Public Meetings Act. But they're not having meetings for the purposes of allowing the public to speak.
Similar to this, here we can.
This is different.
Well, it's a different meeting, Mayor, but it's still the same act that controls. But we don't have these meetings for the purpose of the public session. We have this meeting for the purpose of conducting borough business. And when we do that, we give the public an opportunity to speak. We don't restrict them to issues only of the borough's business, but that's kind of the motivation behind the Open Public Meetings Act. And then it's broadened a little bit more than that because we're government. Same spirit, same idea with the other boards.
Okay, I'll get an answer someday, I guess.
That was the answer.
That wasn't it.
I thought it was a
That was a pretty good answer.
It was a good answer, yes.
Jeez, you might be an attorney, huh?
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Anyone else from the
Okay.
public like to address? Please step up.
Paul Bowling, Romaine Ave. What does it take to get a name changed in this town?
Meaning, street,
I've been in town over 40 years, and every time I hear the name Acid Brook, it drives me nuts.
and it's funny you bring that up because I don't know if anybody was on the board, maybe Eric was on the board at the time. We tried to get the name changed and it was not an easy thing to do. Believe it or not, it was a post office. You had to go through the National Post Office and they don't really do that a lot. So it has a name that has been set on a map. Once it's set on a map, it becomes very difficult to change.
I was just curious because, I mean, what.
I agree with you.
How does it sound when you say, oh yeah, I live on the Acid Brook?
I agree with you 100%. I would love to change the name. Maybe we can look at it again.
How did it get its name? Is there any idea?
I'm guessing DuPont at some point. There's some help with that, but that's just my guess.
We called it Acid
Right?
Brook
It's
before we
horrible.
even knew there were issues. It's been like that ever since I was a kid. We always called it Acid Brook. Yeah. It's always been Acid Brook.
Does it? I'm sorry, just curious.
And I agree.
You mentioned the name.
It's a horrible name. It's a horrible name for the town. It's a horrible name for the river. I agree 100%. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Couple me, Judy Bratter, 21 Albert Street. A couple of meetings ago, I was here and I was discussing the turnoffs by 287 north and south, going south on Ringwood Avenue. They did put an arrow. It's not where I wanted it, because I wanted going to the Phoenix House, had their own arrow, their own area. But anyway, at least something got done. I just still think that that extra arrow should be there, to be only in that lane to go to the Phoenix home. All right, that's it. The signs haven't been changed. The sidewalks aren't there, but I don't expect Rome wasn't built in a day. So, but I appreciate you listening to me at that time.
So while I had the engineer here, I did mention the sidewalks, and they said they're not putting sidewalks there, but those bike lanes that they put in are supposed to be usable sidewalks now.
I wouldn't want my children or grandchildren
I'm just telling you what they told me.
walking in the street.
It's basically a street, but there's a line that supposed to keep the cars out of, but.
And then also the bikes are supposed to go with the traffic and the pedestrians are supposed to go facing the traffic.
That's correct.
That's,
And it's a very dangerous street to walk on.
right.
It's very dangerous.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Council President Polidori?
Second.
Councilman Devine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Approval of the floor. Anybody approve of the floor?
Yeah. I'd just like to send my condolences to Mark Warren's family. He was a longtime businessman here, a member of the Elks, volunteered for the sidelines at the football games, and he was involved in the youth programs. And sorry to see him go.
And, when we speak about Pompton Lakes residents, he's a perfect example of what a Pompton Lakes resident was. He was involved in his community, he was involved in the town he lives in, and, I'm sorry to hear about his loss. It was hard to see you take. Anybody else? Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I'll take ladies first. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. One of the residents brought up the yellow double line on Dawes Highway.
Yeah.
My understanding that the double yellow line is significant if on speeds and maybe amount of traffic used. So I didn't think that warranted a double yellow line.
I'll be honest, I don't even know, so that's why I'm going to ask the police to look into it.
Yeah, that was my point. Could we look into that before we just decide to paint something? And if there is traffic there, which there usually is, and it's speeding, maybe we need to up our patrolmen.
We can do that,
I
yeah.
would rather see that, because I know a double yellow line for your property values goes down.
Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Absolutely, and that's why I wanted it removed on Riverdale Boulevard, because I still, to this day, don't know who put those double yellow lines there. When I moved there, there was none. And then they put them in when they were gonna build the Serenity. And that was a whole other issue, which we shut that
Well,
down.
Lieutenant Kopacki, who handles our traffic, he's very knowledgeable on all this stuff, so we'll reach out to him. And see.
Okay, yeah, but I do just have the traffic, have somebody patrol first, and then we'll look.
Well, we can do both, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's all I wanted to say.
All right.
Thank you.
One item, Mayor, and this goes back to discussion of parking, Pineville parking lot, and even what the resident raised last meeting. I had been thinking about it and I had been in contact with a couple of residents, and that's regarding the cost of the parking for the students. And I did some background research. We do have 35 total assigned. According to Sharon Sunny, there's been 9 sold so far. So we're about a month into the school year, and we're looking at about 3/4 of our student parking passes being unsold at $225. And what I would like to propose is, at least this year, lowering that amount to about $150. And I understand that Gary Giosa, our parking consultant, did take a look at it. He probably looked at other surrounding towns and what they're selling them for. But having previously been in the consultancy world myself, you can only kind of do your best guess on what those things are going to go for. So I've got some concerns that we've got 3/4 of our parking passes being unsold at $225. And I think some flexibility is warranted in considering what we sell them for, because maybe there's not demand because we're overpricing these spaces.
So I can get, I'm sorry.
And at the very least, and I think what we could do is at the very least this year, understanding that we just did build these, my understanding that previous this year, they were $100 for the school year, and correct me if I'm wrong, because
120.
120, okay. So 120, so, at this point, another $30 represents a marginal increase over the 120 that were there. And I had made a point months ago when Randy Hinton had come up and talked about the parking, and I said, this is what our parking consultant had recommended. We needed to recoup the cost of this capital improvement, and I still believe that. But, 26 spaces generating $0 doesn't get us anywhere closer to recouping that. So I think at least showing a little flexibility this year and trying to understand what the market will actually bear for students parking is a worthwhile approach that the council should consider, given the circumstances. Honestly, if the parking never materializes, then, maybe it's not the price, it's something else.
So let me give you a
Are you
little.
making a motion?
Let's have a discussion and see where it goes.
So let me give you a little more information. Bobby is working on something right now with the school board to maybe alleviate the whole thing. So let's give him a little time to work on something. And the other thing Bobby told me, and I didn't know this, every high school senior gets 2.5 months free in the parking lot. So that's 2.5 months that they don't have to pay to the pond toll. So they're already getting a discounted rate off the $225. So they're already down to $160 if you're
How is it a
180.
discounted rate if it's still $225?
Because they don't have to pay those months that they're not using. So the suggestion Bobby made, which was a good one, maybe we do a monthly fee, so when you get to the time that your kids are 2.5 months free, you don't have to pay for those 2.5 months. So you're saving $50 or so right there. So, and this is coming from a superintendent. He said every high school senior gets 2.5 months free in the high school parking lot.
Maybe I'm missing how this works, but if there's an overflow of
the juniors, these are juniors.
These are, the juniors park in the pond?
Right, yeah, most of the seniors can fit on the pond. It's the older juniors that can't, they don't get spots in the.
They don't get any discount.
They don't get it.
Well, I mean,
They don't get any parking in the high school.
So they park in the pond. So, I mean, I think that, to me, my point still applies, that there's not enough juniors that are, willing to pay the 225, or at least.
Well, they're not old enough yet to drive. They gotta be an older junior for the first half. It's the second half, you'd see the extra number of juniors parking.
Right, but do we charge them the $225 if they don't
No.
park until later on?
They pay,
So it's $225.
prorated, $75 every 3 months. So you can pick any 3
So
months.
you can do a 3-month
Sure,
parking pass for 3 months, and that's it.
And what I'm suggesting, and Bobby's suggesting it, maybe we take that further and make it $20 a month, or whatever the number comes out to, and you pay per month, and that way, when you're a senior, if by some chance you had to park in the pond hole, you could get 2.5 months for free. You're not paying for it, so why pay for it if you had to park?
And we would need to change our ordinance to
Yes.
reflect that, or at least if we're gonna only do it this year, then we can do it by resolution.
I don't know that.
No, it needs an ordinance.
And the reason why I say that I think we can do it for resolution is resolutions are good for 1 year. And similar to the bid, when we gave them an assessment holiday, because on ordinance, we have the assessment, but when we gave them the assessment holiday for COVID, we did that by resolution, because it was good for 1 year.
I wouldn't have agreed with that.
Okay.
I would have said do it by ordinance.
Do it by ordinance.
And Bobby did do some research, and reducing the rate to some of the parents was okay, but I'm real happy about it. They want to go back to $100 flat for the year, and that's just not gonna happen.
Okay, well, I mean, again, I think there has to be, I still think that there needs to be some increase. I was a little concerned that $225 was pushing the market too high.
That's if you pay for all 3 months.
If you pay for all 3 months.
So you can pick and choose when you want to park there. So if the juniors, for example, don't pay in the first year, because most of them are not driving yet. They're driving in the second half. So they would pay for 1 semester basically down there. The seniors can mostly all fit on top. There might be a couple that come down on bottom, but then they rotate through 3 months or so free on top. Every senior will get to park for free for 3 months this is coming from the superintendent, in the high school.
In the high school before potentially having to park.
The only reason you wouldn't be is if you're on some type of special probation and you did something wrong. You don't get the advantage of being able to park in high school, which he said is not a lot of kids. The issue we do have, which I do agree with one of the residents that came up, and I am trying to work with this, is you have to move your car at 4 o'clock so the commuters can now park there. There are some people who leave for sporting events 2:30, and there's no room in the Ponto yet to move the car to. I mean, in the high school parking lot. So they run into a problem. I have to move my car, but there's no spot there. So again, the superintendent and myself, and then we'll have to do that by ordinance, are talking about maybe identifying a couple spots in both parking lots that kind of be a late charge, because it's not a lot of kids that are doing this, that could stay maybe till 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. And he said, by the way, most sporting events do start at 4, so that shouldn't be an issue. Occasionally, there are some that start at 2:30 when they do league games and playoffs and things. So that, I can understand how that can be an issue, because we're telling the kid to move their car out of the Ponto at 2:30, but the Ponto is still filled with, the high school is still filled with cars at 2:30. So that could be a problem.
Is that something that the school board is?
They are aware of it. So one of the things that I suggested, and Bobby's gonna poll the school board, is, I don't know, really wasn't, but is maybe the school board buys a lot of these spots, and then they decide what they want to do with their spot, with our spots. Maybe they purchase the spots, and then they determine who, it really is for the school at the end of the day. This is for the school, and it's not a big cost when you look at the grand scheme of things. So I think we were gonna talk to some people on the board and see how they feel about that.
Okay. I mean, I'm willing to see how this process plays out. I do have concerns that the parking may be still priced too high, even on a monthly or 3-month basis. But again, I mean, if they can find a resolution for this, maybe that addresses it. But, again, a month into the school year, I'm not sure where the.
We never
the
sell
demand
more
for
than
the
15.
additional-
In all the years, we've only sold about 15.
15,
Yeah, so it's never been completely sold out.
Okay.
But if we decide to change it, it would have to be by resolution, is that correct or not?
No,
Ordinance, I'm sorry, by ordinance, okay. So we would have to then go through that chain. And again, if it's no big deal. It's no big deal, right? If we think that's something we want to do, then we would have to do that. And the revenue we're losing, it's not a lot of money, but I don't know if reducing it is going to, the parents that are upset about it, make a change to them. I
And
think
the ordinance can have a sunset provision, so it'll self-expire on its own and return to.
Okay.
Do you want to say we give it a month for someone to come up with something better and then move forward with your idea?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
That's
Okay.
reasonable. Yeah, we can do that. And let's get some more information. If they outright say, no, we don't want to buy any spots, then, then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, motion to adjourn. Thank you, everybody. Oh, I need a motion first. Motion. Thank you.
Any additional oversight?